Hello, YouTube. Robert here for a story time drive with me video. I am going to do a story time about my stalker or scary experience with somebody on the road, whatever you want to call it. So, anyway. I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe a little bit more, I'm not for sure. My husband and I drove down to Oklahoma, to this kind of small town outside of the major cities. He was playing Native American flute in this flute festival that they had down there. And so he was one of the performers. So we drove down on a Friday. I think it took us like 7 hours or something, or 8 hours. I'm not for sure. Of course, we stopped every couple of hours or whatever, stretch our legs, go to the bathroom, get something to eat, drinks, etc., etc. But when we went down, because we live in Kansas City, Missouri, the quickest route to get to the part of Oklahoma that we were going to was to take a major interstate through Kansas. So we got onto the interstate in Missouri, drove through a part of Kansas, and when we got to a certain part, it's a toll road, toll highway. So I think we maybe paid 2 or 3 times, I'm not for sure, in the state of Kansas. And then when we continued on and crossed the border into Oklahoma, I think we paid another probably 2 or 3 times. I'm not, again, I'm not for sure. I do know that we were on the toll roads for a huge chunk of our time. And looking back on it now, I would have driven the toll roads again home. I think we spent, maybe $40 or somewhere between 40 and 50. I'm not 100% sure, between Kansas and Oklahoma, between all the tolls and the toll booths and things that we had to pass. So anyway, so we went down, we had a great time. His performance was amazing. It was set kind of on this, pond thing, like in this little, campground kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's kind of like a little campground. They have like a little, cafes, and they have little things. So it's like a little town, but it's almost like a campground. And it was an amazing experience. Got to meet some amazing performers. Got to, talk to some amazing vocalists and flutists, and it was overall an amazing time. Got to see some amazing craftsmen that make these Native American flutes and drums and all sorts of things. So it was amazing. So when we were coming back, I believe we were coming back on Sunday. I believe it was a Sunday. It might have been Saturday, but I'm pretty sure it was Sunday. He and I decided, you know what? We didn't have a ton of money. I mean, we don't have a ton of money now, but we're making more now than we did back then. So we didn't have a ton of money. We were trying to think all the time of ways that we could be frugal. And so when we left at 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe a little later. We were sitting around talking to some other performers and musicians and flutists and vocalists and flute makers and all of this stuff, and we were just having an amazing time. Well, then we decided, you know what, we need to go ahead and leave. We need to go ahead and trek out, and it should be fine because it's late enough at night that we're not gonna really encounter a lot of traffic or anything like that. Well, then he and I made the decision, because we paid more for our hotel than we had originally intended, and that can be another story time, so I might do that one later. But at any rate, we originally wanted to be in this one hotel. They said they had openings, but when we got there, for whatever reason, we couldn't do it, so we ended up staying at a more expensive hotel than anticipated. And it was actually okay, because the hotel we ended up staying at has the continental breakfast, so we were able to get cereal and waffles and bagels and eggs and whatever else it was that was all free, complimentary, included in the price. So anyway, so he and I decided, you know what, let's save some money, let's take back roads. And at the time, whatever GPS app thing I was using, now mind you, this was back in a time when iPhone was only for AT&T, and I believe we were with Sprint at the time, and so I had a smartphone, but it was a BlackBerry, and of course we all know how BlackBerries are. They were okay in their heyday, but it was back in the days of 3G or whatever, and cell towers weren't as prevalent in these smaller communities as they are now. And so the little BlackBerry did okay, but it was a little spotty and touch and go, and sometimes I'd lose signal, sometimes, whatever. So I set up my little GPS thing to route us the quickest route possible, avoiding toll roads. Well, that was all fine and dandy, and we saved, $40 or whatever it was coming back. However, our troubles started at 2 in the morning, something like that. So it was about 2:30. We were driving through these backwoods, tiny little towns, villages, whatever you want to call them, in the middle of Kansas. We were on a highway, but as soon as you reach these little kind of towns, the speed limit dropped down to 45, anywhere from 45 to 35, depending on the city and whatever. There was no street lamps except in some of these cities or towns or villages or whatever you want to call them. I didn't think anything about it. It was fine. No big deal. I had passed a couple of people, like, I'm supposed to. They were going slower than I was going slower than the speed limit stated. There was no rain, nothing like that. So, driving conditions couldn't have been more perfect. I had a few people pass me. So, overall, it was fine until, again, I stated about 2:30 or so in the morning, I noticed, I believe my odometer thing said maybe it was 120 miles or something like that. So it was a good even number, and it was about that 2:30. I noticed somebody was following really close behind me. Well, I motioned for them to go around me because I wasn't going to speed up. They didn't do anything. I, slowed way down, tried to get them to go ahead of me, still didn't do anything. I flashed my lights, I waved my hands out the windows, still nothing. Through all of this, my husband was in the passenger seat asleep, and I didn't start freaking out until I had noticed we had gone about somewhere between 23 and 25 miles, and this person was still right up on my bumper, had made no effort or attempt to go around me. We hadn't passed anybody that was going the opposite way. And so I woke my husband up. I was like, hey, this person's been following us for, 20 something miles. I've been, motioning for them to go around me. I've been slowing way down. I've been flashing my lights. I've been waving my arms, and they're still right there. And he's like, of course he's annoyed. I woke him up from asleep, and he's like, what do you want me to do about it? And I was like, I want you to be awake in case this person tries to Texas Chainsaw Massacre my ass. So, at any rate, I'm continuing to wave them on, whatever, and my GPS stops working. I'm in an area or a part of town or a part of in between towns, whatever it was, that didn't get good cell reception. So, every once in a while it would update and say, routing blah 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 blah. Well, I think another 10 or 15 miles went by. This person's still right on my bumper, it feels. Makes no effort to turn around or, go around me, whatever. And we, again, have passed nobody going the opposite direction. We haven't come up to anybody that's going the same direction. And I see off to the right this little tiny gas station. Well, this little gas station's closed because of the time of night and where it's located and whatever. So they're closed, but I'm thinking, okay, this is good. I could see that I could drive all the way around this gas station and reorient myself, hopefully lose this person. Well, I turn into the gas station, go around the building, and I slow way down, turn my lights off, everything. Well, just then, I see this person coming around the building too. And I'm like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. This is ridiculous. And I slammed on the gas, threw my lights on, and I sped off into God knows what direction. GPS wasn't working. I didn't care. I didn't care if we drove 20 miles off of the beaten path to get away from this person. And it was a scary, scary thing. And my calm didn't come back to me till we reached a part of Kansas that I am very familiar with, that has a lot of these, streetlights and buildings, and it was heavily populated, and all of a sudden there was a lot of people out driving, and I'm like, oh God, we made it. So, moral of the story is, 1, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. 2, take the toll road. Don't drive these little backwoods things, these little backwoods streets, or highways or whatever to try to save a few bucks. I would have rather paid the extra 40, 30, whatever it was, in toll costs to avoid this scary situation. So, at any rate, I'm at work. I gotta go in, turn in a few things, and then I gotta go pick up a couple of people. So, drop a like, a comment, rate, subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.